and thanks for tuning in today for the Seagrass Monitoring training video that we're doing. We're going to talk today a little bit about the Seagrass Monitoring program that we do here at Extension and partnering with the University of West Florida and Dr. Jane Caffrey's lab. And we're going to go through the process of what you would have to do this. And when we're all done, there'll be a contact email for me, so that if you guys decide you want to sign up and be a participating partner in this or volunteer, then you can do that. And then we'll take it from that point on. Get you the paperwork and everything else and get you to a assigned station. So let's start first with seagrass. This is not seagrass. This is marsh grass. The seagrass is out there in the water. It's February. We're not going out there. So we're going to do the whole demonstration right here with marsh grass, but I'd like to begin with that because people will walk up and down the beach and find seagrass blades laying on the beach and call it seaweed. And it actually is not seaweed. So we want to make sure our volunteers are clear on that. Grasses are vascular plants. They have root stems and leaves, and they've got a series of tubes running through their body where they can draw water out of the ground, such as these, what we call vascular plants. They really became land plants. Seagrasses are actually land plants that have returned to the sea, in a sense. So they're all underwater, they're completely submerged. They will be exposed sometimes during extreme low tides, but they do not, like these marsh grasses, can be in the water at high tide and exposed as they are right now at low tide, and they're fine. Seagrasses would not grow here. So they got to be submerged at all time. And you may see or hear as we go through the programs, if you get involved with this, what are called SAVs, or some people use the term SAVs. SAV is an acronym for Submerged Aquatic Vegetation. And basically what we're talking about around here is seagrasses. That would include the non-vascular seaweeds. There are plants called seaweeds. They're truly called seaweeds. But they do not have the root stems and leaves. They do not have the vascular tissue that you will find in these plants. And so those truly are seaweeds. What we have growing here in the northern panhandle and our waters around here is primarily seagrass. It's an important ecosystem, getting to the objective of why we're doing this. It's a very important ecosystem. Science has been able to find that at least 80%, possibly up to 90% of the commercially valuable marine species, that's shellfish and finfish, use these seagrasses for at least part of their life cycle. So with the loss of seagrass and marshes, we see a decline in fisheries. And so people are very, very concerned about seagrasses. They used to extend, and still do honestly, all across the northern Gulf of Mexico, of course, all the way down to Florida Bay, near the Keys, and then up the east coast of Florida, Indian River Lagoon. You probably, if you've been there, know all about seagrasses over there as well. In the United States, we have about 7 different species of seagrasses. Here in the northern Gulf, where we are in Pensacola Bay System, the saltier part of the bay is dominated by 2. One's called turtle grass because sea turtles do eat it. The other one is called shoal grass because it grows very, very close to the shoreline. Both of them are flat blade grasses. The turtle grass is much wider than the shoal grass, and because of that, the shoal grass can grow closer to shore where the wave energy is a little bit higher. So thalassie or turtle grass can only get so close, and then it gets ripped up all the time. So it usually grows deeper out, 4 feet, 5, 6 feet, and in some places in the Keys you can go as deep as 30 feet and still find turtle grass growing. The other species are more tropical. There is one we are looking for. It's called manatee grass. And manatee grass looks a lot like shoal grass as far as how wide the blade is, but it's not flat, it's round. And we are finding remnants of that on our shorelines. So as you're working on this project, if you come across a seagrass blade that is round, not flat, we definitely want to know about that. So please include that in your data sheet when you guys are completing it out. So the purpose of this, or the objective of this monitoring program, is to find out how the seagrasses are. 10, 20 years ago, they had estimated in some parts of the state of Florida, certainly Tampa Bay, that almost 80% of the grasses were gone. And that was concerning for a variety of reasons, but certainly the fishermen were very concerned about this. So they wanted to restore seagrass. Planting seagrass out in the open sound or the lagoons has not been very successful. It's been attempted many, many times in many, many places, and more often than not, it just isn't successful. A couple of years ago, the Tampa Bay Estuary Program wanted to restore 80% of the seagrass they lost. That was their goal. They reached that goal in 2015, and everybody was very excited when they got there. The first question was, what did you do? And they said basically nothing. What we did is we removed the problems that were causing the seagrass to decline, and it came back on its own. And that is what you guys are going to be doing. We're working with Dr. Jane Caffrey at the University of West Florida in her lab. She is a marine botanist and very interested in seagrasses and algae and all of those other marine plants and seaweeds. And so we are going to be collecting data for her students to analyze in the lab. So the first thing, if you agree to do this, is where are you going to do this? We have a grid, and we'll send it to you if you decide to do this. There are 11 grids in Big Lagoon, and there's all about 50 grids in Santa Rosa Sound. So you can look at this grid system and decide, all right, I'm close to this one, or I live on the water. You may be a homeowner and say, I can do this right behind our house, and we can assign you a grid. Once you are assigned a grid, the tricky part is next. So what you'll do, assuming this is a seagrass bed out behind your house, we are going to give you a 1/4 meter quadrat, and you're going to be laying this down over the seagrass, and you're going to be analyzing or counting what's in there. We'll give you a data sheet, and we'll talk a little bit about what you're going to be looking for. But the tricky thing about this is, wherever you decide to lay this quadrat down, you're going to have to come back once a month between April and September. Those are the months we do the monitoring, and you got to put it down in the exact same spot every single time. So we're leaving it to the homeowner or the volunteer to decide exactly where that's going to be. If you got a pier, for example, you may say, I'm going to take 10 steps due west of the pier, and that's where I'm going to lay down quadrat number 1. You can take some red flags or pins and put it in there, but I'll be honest with you, in experience, those get covered with algae, and sometimes they're difficult to find. But it's not a bad idea, especially if it's right behind your house. Now, in a state park, you may come and find that that flag is gone. People will stumble across it when they're out, and they may actually remove it. So we recommend using something more fixed on the shoreline. Obviously, a piece of driftwood is not going to be the best thing because it's going to move. But if there's a pier or a picnic table, or something you feel pretty confident that's not going to move, albeit a hurricane, then make your steps off of that. Pick your location. I'm going to go X amount of feet east, or X amount of feet west, and then you're going to put this thing down. Again, we will provide the quadrat for you. Once it's down, you're going to look at what different species are in there. Is it shoal grass or turtle grass? That's primarily what we have. And on the data sheet, turtle grass has a T, Thalassia. Shoal grass, its Latin name is Haliduli. So you'll see the letter H. And the manatee grass, if you happen to run across that, you'll see the letter S. That's for Spirogonium. That is what the manatee grass is. So you'll circle whichever species are within there, and then you're going to count the number of blades that you find. So that's why we got a really small one. And then the next thing you're going to do is the height of these, and there's little knots. Great, this is twisted. Give me a second. There we go. There are little knots, and each knot is 20 centimeters. So you can place this right here, and then we know that this is 20 centimeters, here's 40. And you can kind of guesstimate in there, and all you got to do is the tallest one. It's just a small hand clump, and say, all right, that's what it is. You can see that it would be really beneficial to have someone standing next to you with a clipboard and taking the notes for you. And the other thing you can use this for is measuring the water depth, which we will ask you on the data sheet. How deep is the water where you're doing this? And then when you're done with that, you've got to do this 3 more times. What I recommend is that once you know where this is and you've got it fixed, say you got your pin here, or even if you decide not to do a pin, I'm going to take 10 steps due west of my dock, and I'm going to put down this corner. And so that's where you're always going to put that. Then you, of course, can roll it this way, this way, this way, and you've done your 4. Or you can do a straight line, however you choose to do it. What we ask you to do is pick a method before you go out and do it. Because what will happen is folks tend to want to say, all right, I'm going to do this one. Well, there's no grass there, so I'm going to go to this one. We need to know that if that's where you want to put it, because if grass starts growing there, that's obviously a good sign. So, decide how you want to lay your quadrats out before you go out, and then stick to your method, whatever you want to do. Your original point, that's totally up to you where you want to start. But that's how you'll get that. You'll get the depth. And then the last thing we do, and actually we ask you to do this first because you're going to stir up the water doing this, is to get a water sample. We will provide the water bottles, We ask you to rinse the water bottle. Imagine we were sitting in the water. You would do what we call rinse it 3 and leave it be. These are Nalgene bottles, so pieces of plastic, microplastic will not leach out while you have it stored until we're ready to use it. And so you'll rinse this thing 3 times, the cap 3 times, pour it out, and then if the current's going this way or tide, go upstream, get your water sample and cap it off. There will be a label on here. This is very, very important. We've had some problems with this in in the past with some of our volunteers, is labeling it correctly so that the students in the lab know what bottle goes with what data sheet. In the top left corner of your data sheet, it's going to ask you which body of water are you in, Santa Rosa Sound or Big Lagoon. Circle that, please put that on your bottle. There's a place for that. Please write that on there. And then it's going to ask you for your location. So if you're in Big Lagoon, are you at the state park? Or if you're at your own home, you would give a private address. I'm at 1335 Gulf Beach Highway. That needs to be on here as well. So please label this correctly. As a matter of fact, I would recommend labeling this before you ever go out. But once you got your water sample, once you've got the numbers we've got off of here, a couple of other things the data sheet will ask for. One, is there any macroalgae? It looks kind of like white Spanish moss. I don't know how else to describe it, but the macroalgae can generate itself if there's excessive nutrients in the water. And if enough macroalgae is covering the seagrass, it will literally block out the light and block photosynthesis. So the amount of macroalgae at your site is important. We definitely want to track that to find out how that's changing over time. And then we ask you about any animals. I mean, you can just list down, I saw crabs, we literally have had some volunteers say, I saw a manatee. That's how the Manatee Watch started here, was that our seagrass people were bumping into these things while they're doing seagrass. So anything you see like that, we're specifically interested in lionfish, and we have found them in the seagrasses in Big Lagoon. So if you see those, let us know. And horseshoe crabs, we're very interested in that. The last thing to show you here is a dive flag. If you're behind your house, you know, people snorkel all the time in real shallow water. You're not in very deep water. So you would think, do I really need to have this? Well, by law, yes. The answer is yes. So we do not provide the dive flag for you, but we highly recommend you have one, and just be aware that that is a state law, that anyone snorkeling in the water does need to have a diver's down flag so that the boats know you're there. So if you are interested in doing this and would like to get a site assigned, my email is on the screen right now. Just email me and we will start the paperwork process. And be sure to ask us any questions. Thanks.